back to Dixie Alley Weather Center. My name is Caleb Crick, and I am very excited to get into my first ever monthly prediction video. In this video, I will be giving you my predictions and forecasts based off of models, weather graphics, and climate analysis to give you an idea of what kind of weather we could see across the Dixie Alley this month. Now, this video is going to be a little different from the other videos I've done in the past. First off, I'm going to be talking more about the future weather than the present weather. Second, when I say what could happen in the future, that doesn't actually mean it will happen exactly like I described. I'm just making an educated guess based on what most models are seeing for this month and also what I see for this month. So buckle up and get ready. It's going to be a wild ride, y'all. First, let us start with the temperature averages that we can see across the Dixie Alley as we go into the first week of August. This is a graphic that I created just showing some of the either slightly below average temperatures or above average temperatures. Here's a look at this first area that I'm showing you. This is the slightly below average temperature areas, and that includes parts of Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, where we could see a few below average temperatures for most of the week. Temperatures aren't expected to be above average, just slightly below average for maybe this time of year. It's going to feel really good since we've been having those above average temperatures for most of July, so it's a good kickstart into August, where we'll have those temperatures that are a little below average. We'll also have those higher precipitation chances, which will lower those temperatures as well. The areas that we'll be seeing probably above average temperatures is most of the peninsula of Florida and parts of southern Georgia, where you could see slightly above average temperatures. And then over here in southern Mississippi and most of Louisiana, where we could see slightly above average temperatures. And another area confined to mostly western portions of Louisiana, where you can see more above average temperatures, more heat concerns as we go throughout the beginning week of August. It's been pretty cool there over the past week, but it's going to start to really get a lot hotter, where we can see temperatures up into the 100s for the first week of August. Here's a look at the temperatures we could see as we go into the next week of August. This is the second week of August, the temperature averages. You can see slightly below average temperatures are expected in most of Tennessee and parts of northern Alabama, where we could have some above average temperatures that it's going to feel a little bit cooler than average. Once again, it's still going to be pretty hot out there because it's the summer, but maybe below average temperatures. Slightly below average temperatures for these areas would be around highs in maybe the mid 80s. Normal highs are usually around the lower 90s for these areas, but maybe slightly below average temperatures for most of the areas in Tennessee. Then we also got two areas of slightly above average temperatures expected. One being over here along the East Coast, where we expect high pressure to start to build again like we saw earlier. I'm not expecting it to be as concerning as we did see during July, where we had all those excessive heat warnings, but definitely could be some slightly above average temperatures, maybe into the mid 90s to upper 90s in some of these areas. Along the panhandle of Florida, all the way along the East Coast into North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Another area of slightly above average temperatures includes all of Louisiana, parts of central and southern Mississippi, and parts of Alabama also included in the slightly above average temperatures. What does that mean? Maybe some temperatures a little above what the normal temperatures for this time of year are. So nothing too concerning, but just pretty normal temperature averages. And as we go into weeks 3 and 4, you can see the temperature patterns really actually shift over towards the majority of the Dixie Alley and over more towards the East Coast, where areas like Louisiana are going to be able to get in on some of those more average temperatures. Same with northern Mississippi and parts of western Tennessee. But all these areas like Alabama, southern Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina aren't going to be able to get a rest from the heat. It's going to start to get a little more above average, especially in these areas. And then more above average temperatures expected in areas like North Carolina and parts of South Carolina. And then over there down towards southern peninsula of Florida. Florida's going to be one of those areas that's really going to be mostly above average for most of the August time frame, where it's going to actually probably be pretty dry too. We're going to have more drought conditions expected in Florida. At least you guys have the ocean, you can go down there to the beach. The water's going to be pretty warm though. Not going to be able to get away from the heat much there. Make sure you guys are putting on sunscreen if you're going out there, because the sun is going to be pretty bright. Not much rain actually expected in Florida for most of August, and I'll get to that in just a minute. And here's a more detailed chart of what the temperatures will be like in the Dixie Alley. Here you can see South Carolina, most through most of the week or through most of the month of August is going to be slightly above average. What does that mean? Temperatures maybe a little above average for this time of the year. North Carolina, same. Georgia, slightly above average as well. Florida is one of the areas that's going to be pretty much above average for most of the month of August. You're not going to really get much relief. Florida, I'm sorry. Pretty much above average temperatures for most of the month of August. Tennessee, slightly below average temperatures. You're one of those areas that's going to be a little cooler than normal. Doesn't mean you aren't going to see above average temperatures, but for most of the month of August, it's going to be around average to slightly below average. Alabama and Mississippi, around average. Maybe in Mississippi, some areas slightly above average. The same with Louisiana, slightly above average for most of the area. Not expecting too much in the way of below average temperatures. You might get in on some of those normal temperatures, though, as we go into weeks 3 and 4. And now we are moving on to our first week of August precipitation forecast. What that is, it just tells us what kind of above average or below average precipitation amounts that you could see over the next week. Here's a look at the first week of August. You can see most areas in South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama, parts of Alabama, expecting mostly above average rainfall over the next couple of days in throughout this week. Just expect those daily chances of scattered rain showers. There is actually a flash flooding threat in some of these areas, especially today, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But once again, expect more rainfall than usual. It's going to be a wet week for you guys over here in South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. And that slightly above average area extends into Tennessee, North Carolina, all the way down into the Panhandle of Florida, throughout most of Mississippi and parts of Louisiana, where we could see slightly above average rainfall rates. It's going to remain pretty wet across most of the Dixie Valley for the first week of August. And as we go into week 2 of August, you can see the precipitation forecast kind of shifts into more of the central areas. Florida will start to get on some of that daily rain shower and thunderstorm activity as we go into the second week of August. You can see parts of Georgia and Tennessee, all of Alabama, Mississippi, and all of Louisiana expected to have slightly above average rainfall over the next or throughout week 2 of August. That would be August 8th through the 14th, expecting a little above average rainfall. Maybe areas getting up to an inch throughout the week, maybe an inch and a half in some areas. But, I mean, once again, it's not going to be widespread heavy rainfall events. It's going to be scattered thunderstorms throughout most of the days. And if you get some of those storms through multiple days, you get some areas of higher rain totals. And that would move it slightly above average for this time of year, especially since we're in the summer. It's usually drier, but it's actually going to be a pretty wet start into the beginning into the middle of August for most of these areas. And as we go into weeks 3 and 4, you can see the precipitation actually shifts farther over to the west, the above average rainfall, and that's because we're going to have more high pressure start to build along the East Coast again. Will it be as hot on the East Coast as it was in the end of July, where we had those record-breaking temperatures? I don't know, but we are going to start to have high pressure build, we think, by weeks 3 and 4. Now, things could change, but this is just what I'm thinking and what some of the models are thinking. High pressure starts to build and cause more hot and dry weather over here along the East Coast, and then more wet weather over here in the more western areas like northern Alabama, central Mississippi, and parts of Louisiana, where we could have more above average rainfall over the next couple, or over weeks 3 and 4, where we could have rainfall totals above an inch. Once again, it's going to remain pretty wet for most of the areas, and even extending into South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia, where we could still see those slightly above average rainfall totals for this time of year. Once again, I think it's going to be a pretty wet start, and when you guys do get rain, once again, that's going to cool it off and make it not feel as much like summer as it should be feeling this time of year. Here's a look at the precipitation averages in a more detailed view. And by the way, guys, I'm sorry if the camera gets in the way for some of these areas. I try to shift it throughout these graphics. It's just I create these graphics, so there's not really a place to put the camera. So I'm sorry about that. I'll try to show you as much as I can with that being in the way. But anyway, South Carolina and North Carolina slightly above average. Most areas are going to be above average. Georgia pretty much above average for most of the month of August. Florida is the one area that's going to be about average. Doesn't mean you guys are going to be too dry. Doesn't mean you guys are going to be too wet. Pretty much about average. What this isn't accounting for is like tropical moisture, like tropical storms and hurricanes that will start to ramp up as we go into August, because August is when we start to get more towards the peak of hurricane season. And if, a hurricane somehow, because it's a lot harder to predict, like, hurricanes and tropical storms and stuff like that. Something like that that can't be ruled out to bring more above average moisture to Florida, because that would definitely add more moisture to Florida or something if something like that happened. Tennessee slightly above average. Alabama is one of the areas that's going to be seeing more of the above average rainfall across parts of the area. It doesn't mean every area is going to have way above average rainfall, but some areas seeing above average rainfall. Mississippi and Louisiana still slightly above average. Once again, most of the areas are supposed to be seeing slightly above average rainfall totals throughout the month of August, maybe rainfall totals that we don't normally see this time of year, which is going to be pretty good for most of us. Not like we're in pretty bad drought conditions except for Florida, but we could really use the rain to cool it off around here. Now, as I said, as we're going into August, there is going to be some tropical development. There always is, because we are getting into hurricane season, and that's where we expect to see the most tropical development. Not too much in weeks 1 through 2. The areas that I see that have the biggest chance for development is over here along either the east coast of the United States or down here into the Gulf of Mexico, as we have a couple tropical waves right here near the Dominican Republic that are moving towards the Bahamas right now. They do have 2 areas they could go. They could either go this way or they could go this way towards the Gulf of Mexico. The chance of them developing is still pretty low even when they make it into those areas. But those are the areas that they have the highest chance for development. And even if they do, we aren't expecting really a hurricane with this. Maybe a tropical storm at most. Once again, still out there in the next week or 2. But once again, stay weather. Where another area over here in the farther into the Atlantic Ocean towards the Caribbean, we will have more active tropical waves coming off of Africa. And one of these ones later into week 2, I'm guessing, is probably going to pose more of a risk for development, probably a higher chance for development as we go into week 2. In this area in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, it's not for sure yet, but we do have some of those models hinting at development. And once again, I'll give you the latest when we do know more about that. But once again, like I said, not much development expected over the next couple of days. But as we go farther into August, we do expect that some development could occur. But as we go into the later half of August, this is where I really see the chance for the tropical activity to really start to ramp up. We do have a smaller chance over here that along parts of the mid-Atlantic coast over here along the east coast of the U.S., we could get a spin-off area of development here. But the main area I am watching is, once again, over here in the Caribbean. We're going to have multiple waves, once again, coming off of Africa as we go into weeks 3 and 4. And a lot of the models are starting to hint at some more stronger waves coming off and maybe even stronger development. That's why we have a higher confidence area. Something is going to develop as we go into August. How strong it is, where it is still in the question, but these are the 2 areas that I'm concerned about as we go into weeks 3 and 4. Once again, nothing to fret about. This is not going to happen like I'm telling you, but this is just my guess of what could happen. But once again, I'm not going to be right. This is 3 to 4 weeks in the future. It's hard to forecast, especially the tropics. Like I said, the tropics are one of the hardest things to forecast here. But once again, like I said, 2 areas, it's going to start to get more active. We're getting farther into hurricane season. Once again, nothing at the moment, and I will keep you updated as things start to ramp up. And once again, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed these monthly forecast videos. Let me know how I did. Put it down in the comments. I really want to know if I should continue to do these forecasts. I really hope they're beneficial to you. This took longer than a normal forecast, so I really hope it helped you guys out, knowing kind of what we could see as we go throughout the month of August. I know I didn't give you everything, but I tried to give you as much as I could. I'm still learning more and more about meteorology as I get older. But once again, I hope that you guys continue to have a good rest of this week and a good month ahead.